months. I'm not desperately upset if consultants at the top of their profession are on six-figure salaries who are doing complex operations and making difficult diagnoses. I'd be slightly surprised if many people were. Don't forget, a lot of GPs are on six-figure salaries.
Does it mean that kind of consultant?
I think it...
Does it mean medical consultant?
I think on the one hand...
You don't think it means sort of business consultants who come in to consult on how you change things?
No, I think it means hospital doctors and hospital managers all lumped together are earning over £100,000.
So do you take issue then with NHS managers earning six-figure salaries?
I think they're harder to justify, although I think the idea that you can run the NHS without a kind of really rather good management is a fallacy. The NHS is a £100 billion a year enterprise. It employs 1.7 million people. You are going to have pretty good management at the top of it. I think the sort of implication is that we need yet more reorganisation, yet more reassignment, yet more squeezing, and I'm not necessarily sure that the NHS, which is already under quite a lot of pressure as it tries to find 20 billion in cuts over these 4 years, is really that's necessarily a very good idea.
You wonder whether the flip side of this is, well, okay, if we don't like these people earning these salaries, we should do without them, but hospitals can't run without some form of management, can they?
No, hospitals can't, and in fact we can see how important management is when we see how badly our hospitals are run, quite frankly, you know, because if we had good managers we wouldn't even notice, presumably. I just think that we know that managers earn these sort of amounts. I mean, if you're running any kind of enterprise that's as large as a regional hospital, you know, I don't know, if you just look at London's hospitals, you know, these are huge organisations with thousands of staff. Of course you're going to get in allegedly the best managers, and they cost money, and they are in charge of an awful lot. So I don't have any beef, quite frankly, with the salaries. What I have a beef with is the people to whom these salaries are given, and I really get fed up when I think it's lazy journalism to constantly be bringing in how much nurses are earning, because we're not looking at nurses here, we're looking at the management of hospital and managers of hospitals, and the two things are different. And actually there's plenty to moan about nursing. It's not as if they are angels and these are devils at the top. So this story to me is just, it's a bit of, they've got one little piece of information which is actually quite interesting, but a little bit of lazy journalism. They've chucked it together with what do nurses earn, and all of this says to me, really, it's just a slow news day. And Sam may disagree.
Let's have a look at the other story, because the injured bomber may never talk again, it says on the Daily Telegraph there towards the bottom, because of the injuries that he suffered when he was in that firefight with police. Jokar Tsarnaev may never be able to answer the questions of the investigators who are poised to ask him quite what was going on.
It's been quite a dramatic day, as you'd expect in America, following the bombings and the firefight over the weekend. What's happening at the moment is the US authorities are extremely worried that these two brothers may have links either to other terrorists in the US or maybe to separatist groups in Chechnya. They want to know how far this conspiracy, if it does go any further, goes. So what they've done is the US have, under presidential instruction, what's called the High Value Interrogation Group, and as from everything that we can tell, it is as scary as it sounds. It's a group of individuals that can go in and question a suspect before their lawyer gets to them, before they effectively are granted any rights, to work out whether there's anything else that they should be worried about, any other bombs and stuff like that. So this group are poised to go in, but he can't talk. He's currently sedated. He's under heavily armed guard, and it's not clear that he will be able to. So at the moment, the American authorities just don't know.
And we also understand that his Miranda rights, being read his rights, might have to wait until after they were able to talk to him, if he was able to answer any questions. There's another special provision for instances like this.
Well, I suppose they'll sort of give him a touchpad and get him to do things. And I just, at this moment in time, I just feel that we probably know enough, but it would be very useful to know why people turn and how they turn, and how they are turned so quickly from having normal lifestyles to this.
Let's move on to the FT, and we will need your help with this, Sam, possibly. Banks dash Osborne's hopes for credit push. So this is more funding for lending, which is supposed to mean that small and medium-sized businesses can get credit more easily, more affordable, more easily, but the banks are saying this isn't going to be the only way of getting us out of a mess?
So George Osborne has had a terrible week. He saw the IMF question his austerity plans, and he saw two of his favourite economists' key theories be disproven about austerity. And we've got GDP figures on Thursday, and so the government is casting around for new ideas for how to get money in the economy. Last year they set up this big flagship scheme whereby the Bank of England would lend cheap money to banks in return for lending. Now that's worked brilliantly in the mortgage market, but it hasn't really got money out to small businesses. So what's essentially happening is the Bank of England and the Treasury are working on redesigning the scheme to help small businesses and medium-sized businesses get cheaper funding, longer-term loans and that kind of thing. Now, we haven't seen the design of the scheme yet, which makes it rather odd that the FT has decided to come out and find some people that criticise it, as it happened to one bank. I think we really need to wait and see what the revamped funding for lending scheme looks like. It's a vast scheme that's being looked at all around the world and possibly copied. So I think it's a little bit too early to judge as the FT does that it's not going to work when we don't know what it is.
Sure, I suppose even if you can get credit and you're a small to medium-sized business, do you have the confidence to actually go for it, no matter how much it's
Now, why
going
are
to
you
cost
asking me that? I haven't a clue. All I know is as a small or medium-sized
just
personal
imagine.
enterprise, it's not easy to get money, and but I don't understand what the thinking is behind this reluctance to hand money over. I mean, they turn around and say nobody's asking us for money. Well, they're probably not asking for money because they've been told on the QT they're not going to get it, and I don't quite understand. Only Sam can explain banking to us.
Then in that case, I will move you on to the Daily Express, because I'm sure you will have a view on summer holiday prices to plunge.
Absolutely, even though I'm not going on a summer holiday because we're too broke because the bank won't give me a loan. No, I think this is to do with the euro, isn't it, and or the pound, and that we're still doing quite well, and as a result, people who are going off to Europe for their holidays this year will do quite well in terms of the exchange rate.
It's not that good though, is it? It's not like it used to be.
One euro gets you 85p.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It's minute.
So I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I don't
Gone
think
are the
it
days
is.
of 68p.
It's about a 2p change, I think, from when I last went, which is not really enough.
From a British, holidaymaker's perspective, the Eurozone crisis hasn't been great because we've still got in Cyprus the same currency as they've got in Germany, and that means that we haven't seen any great depreciation, prices going down in countries like that. So there's been no great bonanza for British holidaymakers. There are other victims, of course, in that crisis.
In the old days, when Greece had the drachma, we'd all be going to Greece this summer.
You'd hope for another devaluation, then off you'd pop.
Off you would. We're not going. We're not going here. We'll stay here because we like doing the paper review. We like it so much, in fact. We're going to do it again in an hour's time. I hope you'll stay with us for that. Thank you in the meantime to Sam and to Charlotte. We'll stay with us here on BBC News because Click is coming up next, and they're talking about life logging. Who knew what that was?